Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I'm making this video like this. I'm actually using a different device because I was told that when I recorded videos from my laptop there was some sort of weird beeping noise in the background or some sort of like static sound that some people could hear, some people couldn't hear, so I thought I'd try it on this device and see if it makes a difference. I'm still in the usual room that I make my videos, so my computer is on. Things are usually the way they are when I'm making regular videos, so we'll see if people can still hear some really odd noise. Maybe it's the fan of the laptop. That might be what it is. Anyway, came on here to make this video and to record this because I actually wanted to make a different video about Daniel Wallace and his refutation to Bart Ehrman and the textual criticism of the Bible, but that will have to be after this video. I'm making this video because I had a Muslim user, comment on my past two videos, Ibn Ishaq in the 3, and the Will the Real Maryamites Please Stand Up? Now, in that video, in the first, he made a couple comments and basically said that that I was in error, that my crap detector had gone off too soon because he had found a reference to the Maryamites, and that I had said in the Will the Real Maryamites Please Stand Up that there was no Christian source for the Maryamites. Now, the thing is, I saw the comment, I looked up the dictionary in question, and I was pretty surprised that this was the reference. The reference is Brewer's Dictionary. It has different names. Sometimes it's just referred to as Brewer's. I will put the link in the more info section regarding the source and who is Brewer. Brewer was a minister who published his dictionary in 1870. The dictionary is a dictionary, according to Wikipedia, is a dictionary that has to do with fables and folklore and idioms and literary allusions. In other words, this is not a scholarly dictionary in the context of religious studies or theology. This is not a serious work of academic scholarship in these fields, such as history or the social sciences. This is a book about fables and literary allusions and proverbs and things like this. It's actually all online, as the person told me. So I looked it up online, and the definition just says Maryamites, and then it says a heretical sect that thought that the Trinity was the Father, the Son, and Mary as the Mother of God. And there's no historical references at all. It's just this definition. This is literally the definition of a man who lived in the 1870, who published this dictionary and gave no historical evidence for the definition or the group called the Maryamites. It's just an assumption. It's just an assertion. And I was surprised that this was the evidence being brought forward. He then argued in this video and also in the Ibn Ishaq video about the Catholic view or the Eastern Orthodox view or the Mariology of the Virgin Mary. In other words, the theology of the Virgin Mary. And said, well, how, try to talk about how Catholics view Mary as the Mother of God. Or he sort of quoted a few church scholars out of context saying that they thought that Mary was part of the Godhead. I don't see any evidence for that. There's no evidence that these people thought that Mary was part of the Trinity or was a goddess and was therefore in league with the Godhead. I can't find any evidence for that. What I do know about, and I'll post an article from Wikipedia about the Virgin Mary, read up on the dogmas that Catholics and Eastern Orthodox Christians believe about the Virgin Mary. You will not find any reference to them saying, oh, she's a goddess. They believe that she's a god, right? They venerate her. Now, if we want to have a debate about veneration, let's have a debate about veneration. Let's talk. I don't necessarily agree with the veneration of Mary or the saints. And as I said in my other video, I don't actually believe in the Orthodox opinion about the Trinity. I'm not an Orthodox Christian. So I'm not defending the Trinity because I think it's right. I'm defending the Christian belief of the Trinity based on actual evidence of what we know about the Trinity. So if someone comes along and says, oh, this is what the Trinity is, or this is what certain Christians believed about the Trinity, I'm going to challenge those assertions and wonder, where are you getting that from? What's your evidence for that? So if we are going to bring up dictionaries, I own the dictionary, Merriam-Webster's Dictionary of the Encyclopedia of World's Religions. I looked at Maryamites. They don't exist in that dictionary. I looked up Maurice Salati's Comparative Religion, his Encyclopedia of World Religions. Looked that up, or Encyclopedia of Religions, excuse me. It's in 16 volumes, and I am privileged that my local library has the set of the encyclopedias of Maurice Salati. Looked that up. Looked up Maryamites. Not there. So even if we're going to lower our investigative standards to dictionaries and encyclopedias, which I want to say from the get-go, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think we should be ashamed to reference encyclopedias and dictionaries, just as long as we admit that they're for introductory purposes. So if you don't know anything about, like, for example, Mary Magdalene, and you want a 2-paragraph intro to Mary Magdalene, that's totally fine. But even if you're going to use them as a source material, you have to ask yourself the question, what's their source material? Every good academic source has a bibliography that tells you where the researchers, the authors, the scholars of those books got their information from. When you look at the back of the encyclopedias, the two I just referenced, there's a whole host of bibliographical material telling you which scholarly sources they got their definitions, where they got their definitions from. I really doubt that Brewer's has this same standard of historical evidence and bibliography in the back of that dictionary. If they do, that's great. If Brewer's does, I would like someone to tell me what is his historical evidence for the Maryamites. We already know that George Sale talked about the Maryamites being the Council of Nicaea. There's no historical evidence for that. George Sale was in error. Now, again, I want to make something very clear here. I just mentioned how I'm not trying to defend the Trinity because I believe it. I'm not an Orthodox Christian. However, I want to point out that what I am trying to impress upon people is to use critical standards, to try and use academic critical standards when they are researching these topics. I realize we're on the internet. I realize that anyone can have a voice, and I think that's great. But I realize that standards can be very low for people. And if we're going to talk about these subjects, comparative religion, history, psychology, then we need to engage this material in an honest, academic, critical way. If someone's going to say, oh, well, Christians believe this, what's your source for that? And another thing I want to point out is that this user kept talking about the Catholic view of Mary. And again, I think if modern day Muslims want to reinvestigate the meaning of the Quran, what are the verses referring to? I think modern day Muslims have permission, of course, to do that. But we can't forget that classical scholars said these things about the Quran. And this user and a few other people have said this too, that they've accused me of assuming that the Quran is saying the Trinity consists of Mary, the Son, and the Father. I want to be very clear. I am not assuming that. I have never assumed that. If I've given that impression, I apologize now. Never assumed that. I've never assumed that. What I've done is I've said that there have been classical Muslim historians and scholars who have said that that is what the Trinity is. And I have found that they have been in error. Ibn Kathir has been in error about the historicity of Christendom. He has discussed Christian history, and he has been in error. Even talking about the days in the life of Jesus. Because when you look up the Tafsir commentary about how Jesus wasn't crucified in Surah 4, he talks about the hostility against Jesus. He's talking about the king of Damascus, and he doesn't even mention Pontius Pilate or the Sanhedrin. I mean, these are things that were known by Christian historians before Ibn Kathir's time, and there is no reference to the things we should expect from someone who's going to delve into the history of Jesus or of Christianity. And yet these scholars are in error about these things, about the theology of Christians, saying that Mary's part of the Trinity. Now, I say that they're in error. Does that mean that all modern-day Muslims therefore have to accept their verdict on these verses? No. If modern-day Muslims want to be critical about the tafsir and say, yeah, they're wrong, they were wrong about this, and I've had a few Muslims admit this to me, yeah, they were wrong about this. If you want to reinterpret your scripture for yourself in the 21st century based on everything we know about authentic historical material about Christianity, then go ahead. That's fine. But even if we are going to say, oh, the verse about Mary, any allusion to Mary, well, it's got to be about the Catholics worshiping Mary. Well, the problem is, if you're going to look at the Quran, the verse in the Quran where Jesus is asked by Allah, did you tell your followers to worship you and your mother as gods in degradation of Allah? You're going to have a problem with that because Catholics don't think Mary's a goddess. Now, if Muslims want to say they're committing shirk, that's a completely different subject. If you want to say that they're venerating Mary, they venerate a lot of saints, that's a huge Catholic and Eastern Orthodox thing. If you're not okay with that as strict Unitarians, cool. You'll get no argument from me. But I don't know whether the Quran is really accurately even representing the context of veneration. When the Quran says, did you tell your followers to worship you and your mother as gods, as in divine beings, I don't think Catholics really believe that Mary is a goddess. They put her in a very high esteem, probably higher than some other Christians, like non-Catholic Christians would say. I don't know about that. James White himself has debated Catholics on the issue of Mary and the veneration of Mary. Yet I don't think even James White would say that Catholics believe that Mary is a goddess, according to Catholics or Eastern Orthodox Christians. So, again, I want to say, let us be authentic with our research. Let us be critical of the source material. Let us be honest about what other people believe. And again, if modern day Muslims want to say, well, we need to reinterpret these the scriptures, the text of the Quran in the 21st century based on what we know, power to you. But still, my advice is be careful, because if you suddenly start attaching, as this user has done, oh, it's the Catholics, that Catholics think that Mary is, be very careful. Because I'm not here to defend Roman Catholicism, but a Catholic would look at that and go, we don't think she's a goddess. Again, I want to be very clear. This is the last time I'm going to repeat myself. If it's an issue of veneration, we can talk about that. It's all there. They're not ashamed of saying that they venerate Mary, but that's a difference between venerating a saint or venerating Mary and even giving her titles like Mother of God. No Catholic thinks that she's part of the Godhead. No Catholic thinks that she's a goddess. I really don't think they do. If someone can bring something to the contrary, that's fine. Even if someone wants to say they're so close to thinking that. Close is not saying that they are. Oh, they almost think she's a goddess. That's not the same thing. So I just want to point this out here. I encourage people to still bring in their input, but we really have to be careful about these things. You have to check your source material. You have to do a better job of critical investigation on these subjects. If you don't, we're just going to keep hitting a brick wall here with these discussions. Another thing I want to point out is this is getting kind of repetitious, where I'm seeing some of these comments, and this is sort of my fault. I feel like I have to respond to everybody's comments. I decided that basically if you leave a comment and that makes you feel good about yourself, that you said, oh, I'm wrong, or you think that I'm in error about something. If I don't respond to you, that just means that either probably I just didn't think that the comment was really going anywhere. If I make a video about anybody making a video response or PMing me something of real historical substance or theological substance, I will probably make a response. I will probably respond. But if people are saying, oh, it's the Catholics, or it's it's this dictionary, if you don't see a comment from me, that probably means I wasn't impressed by it, and you might want to rethink your position. However, again, I'm not a scholar, so if you think that dictionary, if you think Brewer's dictionary of fables and idioms, and if you think that that's it, and even if and I know how this works on the internet, I know that people think they take people out of context, and I can see someone down the line going, Colin never said that any Christian said anything about the Maryamites. Let me rephrase. If you feel good about me admitting that, sure, this Christian minister in this random dictionary mentioned something called the Maryamites and put a definition to it. Okay, I admit, sure, Christian minister said something about the Maryamites. Still doesn't mean there's any historical evidence for it. Show the historical evidence. Where is the historical evidence for the Maryamites? Where are eyewitness accounts of the Maryamites? Where is even a church father from 300 years after the Maryamites saying, yes, there's this heresy called the Maryamites? We know that there are many Christian fathers that wrote against the heresies. We know that they did. And they wrote about heresies that they thought were Jewish heresies, Orthodox Christian heresies, and heresies outside of Christendom. And yet, I can't find any evidence for the Maryamites. This seems to be a fiction and a fable. And yes, I was right in saying my crap detector went off. because my crap detector went off when I saw this comment about this Brewer's Dictionary. If this Brewer's Dictionary is a dictionary of proverbs and literary allusions and folklore and classical mythology, then I can safely say that the Maryamites are a figment of mythology, of folklore, and I cannot find any historical evidence for them at all, or any group, Christian or otherwise, saying that Mary was a member of the Trinity. So, there you have it. Thank you all for watching. Peace be with you all.